Today's prompt is for a lace pocket. Now the beauty of a lace pocket is you can see through, so you get a little glimpse, a little tease of what's inside the pocket. Now for the pocket, you can fill it with greeting cards or tags. I'll show you how to fill it with some bookmarks and some ornaments, as well as a bunch of little companion little goodies that we'll add to it. We'll use our page dangle from a previous video. I'll show you how to make a hat pin, and I have a companion video to make a faux hat pin if you don't have the supplies to make a hat pin. We'll add some stamped fabric images to the page, as well as one that I stamp and color in with crayons. It's just another textured element that adds interest to your piece, and because you stamp it and color it in, it's unique to you, both the image and the colors. I can't wait to get started with this, so let's go. So far, these are the completed pages. We have the first prompt for gift, and I have everything pinned together because I'm not sure if I'm going to sandwich things in between the pages just yet. I have the ribbon collage, the vertical pocket, and then the grid, along with my page dangle. So I'm going to set these aside for now because that's how the first 4 pages are going to look. They're sort of a mini book within themselves. And now to get ready for the last 4 pages. So I'm starting with just 2 of the fabrics that we cut out to be the pages. And again, just like with the first 4, each set will go back to back like this. And I use just a little clip here to hold it in place while I'm not using it, just to keep that pressed edge nice and neat. But this is the area I'm going to work on today. So I'll set aside that inside page. I don't need it quite yet. I don't need it for today's prompt. And I'm just going to work on this page. So again, I'll get out all my supplies. So these are just a few of the supplies that we'll be using in today's video. Now let's just go over the first ones that are kind of easy because we've already done them. And this is a page dangle. I have just a key here with a little bead. I'll link that video below. I'm not going to use it as a dangle, but I'm going to use it today. And that's why I made an abundance of these so that I can use them in different ways. So I'll set this aside, but this is something that you may have already created. The other thing is I'm using stamped images. Here I have some stamped text. Here I have a stamped image that I colored in with crayon. I'll have the video where I color it in, as well as the video for stamping on fabric, in case you want to stamp your image, but you don't want to color it in. So I'll set these aside. I have a video here to make a hat pin. I'm going to make one in class today. It's very simple if you have the blank. If you don't have the blank, there are a few things you can do, and I'll show you that in the companion video. But you can always just use a pre-made brooch. This will work beautifully as well. I like the hat pin because it's reminiscent of years past when women would need to pin their hats to their hair because the hair was in such an elegant updo that they wanted to keep it well, because the hat didn't sit on the head like a baseball cap. It sat off to the side. It was pure elegance. But like I said, you can skip it all together or use a brooch or use some of the methods that I'm going to show you with just wire, and I'll show you that in the companion video. The last companion video is just to take a paper clip, or you can even take a safety pin, and you're going to attach just a little button to it. And I'm going to use this to attach to some of the goodies that I tuck inside my journal. And I'll show you this at the end of the video as well. It's just a fun added touch, and it's very easy to do. So to get started with our page though, I have my fabric that I use. I've already pressed it down on the side, and this is just going to be my background fabric for here. It's an optional step. I love the additional layers and the textures. And then you're going to need a piece of fabric or lace. I'm using lace here. This is very thick lace because I'm going to turn it into a pocket. Now this lace has an edge that's ruffled up top, so when I cut my lace to fit the page, which I'll do right now, cut it right over here, so I'm giving myself a little extra room. I'll find the area that has the ruffling here, and I'll just pull it apart so that it has a straight edge instead of that ruffled edge. And then I'll decide which edge I want to be the bottom of my pocket and which the top. And I love that ruffled edge up top, so I think that's going to be the layout of my pocket. I like to cut the fabric long. This is exceptionally long, but I'll trim it down a little bit because I like to have just a rolled edge for the side of the pocket. And I'll do that a little bit neater, but that's how it will go down and be attached in that way. Now, if you don't have thick lace and you don't want to use fabric, but you want to use lace, you can get out some thinner lace and just double it up. So for that, I would take 2 pieces of this lace. I'll just cut it to show you what I mean. And you don't even have to sew them together. So instead of using it the way I just showed you how I'm going to tack it down, I would just take 2 pieces of lace like this, tack down the sides and the bottom. And this top piece would be left free, the bottom of it. I can either put it over that piece or under it. And you could do this with multiple layers if your lace isn't even this thick. And it just gives a very interesting result because it's transparent and you could see all the wonderful things we're going to tuck inside the pocket. So right now, I'm going to take this to my machine and just top stitch around the edge here to hold this in place. I'm going to roll the edge of my lace pocket and tack that down. And then we'll start with the extras. So I've stitched down my pocket just around the 3 sides, as well as the background. And so my page is already starting to come along. And now I have the fun of filling the pocket with all these little embellishments. I want to do a little bit on the background though. So I have my stamped image where it says Merry Christmas. So I'll cut that down. I like the frayed edge of that look, especially in contrast with the lace, the elegant lace, and then the rustic frayed edge, I think is a nice addition. And I'll play with that a little more to get the right size that I want. And I'll just tack that down with a few stitches. And I want those stitches to really show. And then I have my stamped image here, and I stamped this on a heavyweight muslin. You can use canvas as well. I colored it in with crayons. I'll have a companion video for that. And now I'm going to trim it down. Now, after I trim it down, I can decide if I want to put a background on it or lace or something like that. And I'm looking at this, and as much as I like this little postage stamp edge, I think I'm going to trim it further and just have that little square. So yes, I think I prefer this. So now I'll pin this just using a little safety pin just through the top of the fabric. It'll just be a little extra that kind of has a little bit more of a border, and it breaks up that lace. So I'm really pleased with the way this is coming along. I'm going to set this aside for now because it's fairly complete. It just has to be pinned into place. I'll stitch this down, trim it up a little, and then we'll come in and work on the hat pin or the brooch. So I stitched my label in place, and now I'm ready to start filling up my page. This is the end of the technique. I like to use a hat pin. This is one that I made. You can purchase them at antique shops. You might even have one that you inherited. They don't tend to use these anymore, but they're basically a long stick pin with a very sharp edge, and they sometimes sell them with these little buffers here so nobody gets hurt, but a lot of times those get lost. The beauty of the hat pin is that it's just really intricate, and the height of it is really interesting. Now, if you don't have a hat pin, you may have a stick pin. The only difference really is the length. It's so much shorter, but it serves the same purpose. It's just a little jeweled element that you can add to your piece. With the hat pin, all you have to do is pierce your fabric to stick it through it. So I would just take it, pierce the fabric, make sure I have it the right height that I want, come out lower on the fabric, and then put my little end in the piece so that nobody gets poked. If you don't want to use the end, or you don't have the end, you could stitch it in place. You could put a little dollop of hot glue just to protect anybody going through your book if you want to use this. If you don't have this, and in my video on how to make a hat pin, I also show how to make faux hat pins. So there are other options you can do, and you just stitch it into place with a couching stitch. So I would just stitch over the beads to hold it in place. If you make your own hat pin though, you don't have to make it quite like this, unless that's what you want. I did want to show you the difference between the hat pin that I made with the actual hat pin fixture here, the little finding, and a faux hat pin. So you can see in a fabric book, they look identical. It's just another little fun thing to add to your journal. I'll show you how to make one really quickly in a moment. But if you don't want to do the hat pin, you can do a little brooch. They make some beautiful brooches for Christmas, and you might even have some left over that you don't tend to wear anymore because few people wear brooches. But that's another option as well. So let's just make a quick hat pin. So to make a hat pin, you need the hat pin blank. I get mine on Amazon, but a lot of jewelry making sites would have these as well. And they come in various lengths. This is a longer length. They do come in a little shorter. And like I said, you can find a stick pin as well if you want it shorter and you want that little feature of that point. Then you need some jewelry glue here. This is B7000. It's very quick dry. It's a lot like super glue in the way it's used, and it has a very fine point. So when I remove the cap, there's a little needle that goes in there to keep that point very easy to use and a very regulated amount that comes out at a time. Now I have to say with the faux hat pins, because they're not being worn, I've used hot glue as well, and that holds the beads in place quite nicely. But to make this hat pin, I just choose the beads I want. Here I just have some Christmas colors in different sizes. So I like to always start with a small bead at the end of my pin here, and I'll start with this little green one. So I just feed it through, and then maybe my next one will be a red, and then a white. And I can just determine how much I want on this pin. I'll just keep playing around with it. I'll stick with that pattern, just because patterns look nice together. So I have a very pretty little pin here. Now all I need to do is slide my beads down, take out my glue. You want to use this in a ventilated area. It's not highly scented, but you still want to use it in a ventilated area. And I just put a little bit of glue along that pin, and then I slide down my beads, one or two at a time. I'll add a little more glue. Again, slide my beads down until I fill up all of the areas. And it doesn't dry instantly, but you'll feel a little resistance when you put your glue down. So now there's still a little give here. I can move it around if I want, but I'm happy with this. So now I'm going to let it dry standing up. So I'll prop it up against things so it can stand up, and then I have a hat pin. Be sure to check out the video that I have, the companion video, if you want to learn to make faux hat pins or additional versions. So now the fun part is really filling your journal. I have my pocket here ready to go. What I do is I take some greeting cards. This is just a new greeting card, but it looks retro. I also collect retro greeting cards that are used, but I just wanted to find one that would fit in there nicely. Now, if it's too tall and you put it in, you can't see your little text here, but that's not a problem for me because I am hoping that people are going to go through this and remove the different things from the pocket, that it's interactive. So I have a couple of cards I can use in here. I also have a little bookmark, and what I want to do is feed the little dangle through it. So I'll come in here, feed the dangle through it, just like that, and I'm just going to staple it in place. And so I have another little extra for my pocket. I have these little kids' greeting cards. You can see the back of them. I could add a piece of paper or cover up the back, or just tuck that in. And here's another greeting card where I just cut out the greeting. So that's something else you can use. Another thing I like to do is take one of these cards and then use one of these pins. And I have a companion video for that, where I can just stick that in. And it just adds yet another element to my piece. Now I'm going all out on this page. You can decide how much of this you want to add. From here, I might add another little fabric ornament, or even this little flat ornament is very cute. And then I'll just take my pin and figure out where I want to put it on the piece. So I removed some of my treasures from the pocket, rearranged everything, and then added the little stamped image. And now I think it's complete. I don't know, I might stick everything back in the pocket. It's kind of hard to decide. I just love the idea of having all these different things to go through. So that's prompt 5 in the Stitch This Season workshop. Oh, I love this prompt. The book is getting very thick, but it's full of so many interesting little goodies that you can really take a peek and see what's in there. I think that interactive element is so beneficial to fabric books. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like additional content, please consider becoming a paid member of my channel. Thanks for joining me today.